I'm flying out to Dallas and I need to pack everything I will need in a checked bag without breaking 50 pounds. If this is a one-man band gig, most of them usually are. And so my goal is to always pack only what I need. So for this job, in my checked bag, I'm bringing 2 tripods, light stands and soft boxes for my travel lights, an extension cable, sound recorder, gaff tape, and my gimbal. And of course, all of this is going to be protected by a blanket that I just had at my house. It's very industry standard. And the bag ended up weighing exactly 50 pounds when I brought it to the airport. So it was a very close call because I still do not have a media pass. And I know when you do have a media pass, you are able to exceed that 50 pounds without having to pay additional costs. So it's definitely on my to-do list to get a media pass since I've been traveling a lot more frequently than I used to. So in my camera bag, I'm bringing both my cameras. I'm only bringing zoom lenses because I will not be taking any primes for this job for the sake of weight and speed. I just don't feel like I'm going to have time to swap lenses out to capture a moment. And truthfully, I would rather sacrifice that nice blurry background at 1.2 aperture or 1.8 aperture for a speedy zoom lens that will capture what I need so that the editors have the footage that they need to get a good edit going. I'm also bringing my 2 Godox travel lights along with my Rode Wireless Pro system, some attachments so that I can film my BTS, and we are good to go. For travel jobs, I used to Uber to the airport all the time, and those fees would add up. We're talking about 60, $70 sometimes for one trip to the airport and then another trip back from the airport. So it's like 140, $150 sometimes just to get to and from the airport. But a friend of mine actually told me about this website called cheapairportparking.com, and it has helped me a ton. Basically, you type in your airport, you type in the time you want to drop your car off and the time you want to pick it up, and then it gives you a list of parking garages near the airport that you can leave your car at. You pay through the website, and then depending on the parking garage you get a QR code or you get a confirmation code that you show the attendant when you're picking up your car after you return, and you're good to go. And it's just made my process of going to the airport and coming from the airport way easier. I'm not a fan of Ubering. It's not a fun process. And if I'm able to just get in my car and drive home, it's just way easier. This event is a blockchain conference, and it's going to consist of me following my client around, collecting footage of him mingling, networking, and speaking on stage, very similar to the stuff I did on the San Diego job a few weeks ago. And what these jobs usually bring is a lot of unpredictability, so I can't waste time with equipment setup or anything because if a moment pops in that needs to be captured, I need to be ready to capture it. So this right here is a big takeaway I got from this Dallas job. Shout out to Hector who told me about this trick. If you remember in my San Diego job, what I was doing was I had my Rode boom mic on my camera and I also had my Rode Wireless Pro system set up on my cage. And what I would have to do before this was I would either have my boom mic plugged in or I would have my receiver plugged in and I would have to alternate whichever one I needed at the time so that my camera was capturing the audio. What Hector showed me was taking the cable from my boom mic and plugging it into one of the transmitters that was on my camera and then setting the receiver on my Rode Wireless Pro to split. So now what I'm doing is one channel is collecting audio from the transmitter that is on my client or wherever it is, and then the other transmitter, the one that's on my camera, is taking in audio from my boom mic. So now I'm having both pieces of this audio recorded into my camera, and that way myself or the editors can split those 2 channels in Premiere Pro or DaVinci or whatever they edit in, and now they have boom audio and lav audio to pick from depending on what the situation is. And this is just way less of a headache so that I don't have to plug anything in or out anymore. So thank you, Hector, again for showing me this trick. Speaking of sound, any event that I'm at where they have a box for sound recording is just such a blessing. There is no need for me to work with the sound department on getting a line in or anything. I just take my XLR cable, I plug it into one of the available ports they have in the box, plug it into my sound recorder, check audio, and I'm good to go. I love my travel lighting kit. I love how small it is. I love how quick it is. I love that it can be battery powered. It made it much easier and faster to make sure the interviews I was filming were adequately lit. And just so you guys can see what the difference is between one light and no lights, here is one talking head segment I filmed of my client before I had my lights set up. And here is one after I had my lights set up. It's so much better, and this specific setup is fantastic for any impromptu interviews that might pop up because it's not plugged into anything. So I'm able to move it around as quickly as I can to just pop it in front of two people who are about to interview, set up my camera, get the shot, and provide more content for the editing team to make social media content or whatever they need it for. Remember what I said about speed? Well, I'm definitely in need of a monopod because sometimes a tripod is just too slow for these kinds of events, especially if you are a one man band like myself. You never know when a last minute interview can pop up out of nowhere, and if you don't have the time, you could be stuck holding a camera with no breaks in between. And that's because a lot of these speakers don't want to wait on you having to set up your tripod or your lights or anything like that because they're like going from one interview to the next, or they're about to speak on stage, or they have somewhere else to be. And so having a monopod would most definitely help. And if I do have an interview or something that needs to happen, I don't have to hold the camera the entire time. I pop it down on the ground. I have some support and I'm able to last a lot longer so that way I get what I need. Here is one other feature on my Sony cameras that I haven't utilized yet, and that is clear image zoom. I've heard of this feature before, but I've never used it myself. And so I decided to give this a shot and just see what kind of shots I can get out of it. Because I did not have a 70 to 200 millimeter for this job, all I had was two lenses that zoomed in up to 70 millimeters. So if you're filming at 4K, the Sony a7S III and the Sony a7 IV crop in at 1.5. So if I had 70 millimeter lenses on my cameras, that crops into essentially 105 millimeters. And so I wanted to give this a shot because I like having nice tight shots on my speakers when they are on stage and just capturing their emotions and capturing what they're talking about. And so I tried it, and it claims that there's no quality loss when you use this feature. I'm pretty sure there's a slight quality loss on anything when you crop it on a sensor like this, but I didn't really see it impact the image much. I like this feature. I love being able to zoom in a little further if I can, and if there's no image quality loss, then it's a feature that I'm gonna try to use again. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into it and see how it works. I do have some more jobs coming up in the next 2 weeks, and so that will be a good opportunity to try this feature out on those as well. I did hear that this feature doesn't work too well when it's in low light situations, when the camera has to work a little harder to get a good image, but for adequately lit situations like these, this could be a good feature to utilize if you want to get that extra punch in on your subject. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep using it. I'm gonna try it a few more times in the jobs I have coming up, and we'll see how it works out.